This movie gets so much hate, but it's a personal favorite. Let's do it. When A Stranger Calls opens up with this babysitter answering this phone to this mysterious person, you can tell she's obviously in distress and she says, "Stop calling me." And then we hear a scream and we see a homicide detective entering the house and finding the bodies of the babysitter and three young children. 125 miles away from that crime scene, we meet Jill, who is a high school student. We see that Jill is a track star, and we also learn that Jill is going through a breakup which caused her to exceed her phone minutes. If you're too young to get what that means, ask your parents. So to make up for that, she has to babysit on a Friday night for the Mandrakis family, who lives in this super beautiful but also super remote house. So Jill gets there, Mrs. Mandrakis shows her around and also tells her about the housekeeper Rosa who's home, and she says the kids have been sick so they're asleep. So they leave, and very soon Jill starts to get these mysterious phone calls. It starts as somebody calling and not saying anything and just hanging up. Jill is starting to get freaked out, but she just thinks it's her friends playing a prank. But then all of a sudden she starts hearing noises. But turns out that's just her friend Tiffany, aka Katie Cassidy. We already saw earlier that there's some tension between Jill and Tiffany because Tiffany kissed Jill's boyfriend. So Tiffany shows up and wants to drink, and Jill's like, "Bitch, get the fuck out. You kissed my boyfriend and now you're gonna wake the kids. Fucking leave." So Tiffany does leave, but we see as she's going to her car, there's a branch blocking the gate. And as she gets out of the car to go move the branch, she gets attacked by an unseen person. And the phone calls to Jill continue. However, this time, this man starts speaking and says something that indicates that he can see Jill. He says something like, "It's been a long time since you've gone upstairs to check on the children." Because mind you, this house is just all window. So Jill calls the police, which by the way, she had already done, but they basically told her that they can't do anything. Fucking useless. But now she calls and is like, "He can see me." So because it's more of an immediate threat, they're like, "Okay, next time he calls back, you have to keep him on the phone for at least 60 seconds so we can trace the call." Jill then looks outside at the guest house and sees a light on and a shadow moving. Earlier, Mrs. Mandrakis had told them that they have an older son in college who stays in the guest house, so Jill assumes that that's him. She tries to call the guest house but gets no answer, so she decides to walk across and see if he's there. But of course, the guest house is empty and then the phone rings. Jill answers and this guy just keeps like taunting her, basically telling her that he can see her. She manages to keep him on the phone for 60 seconds, but then realizes it's the wrong phone because now it's the guest house phone. And then she looks back at the main house and notices that a light has been turned on, so she assumes that this is Rosa, the housekeeper. She clearly didn't learn from like the guest house debacle, I don't fucking know. Jill goes back to the house trying to look for Rosa, and of course she doesn't fucking find her. And then the phone rings again. This time the guy is silent, but Jill kind of just keeps talking to him and manages to keep him on the line for 60 seconds. Jill then hears a shower running upstairs, once again assumes it's Rosa, goes upstairs to check, and there's nobody there. So now she's freaked the fuck out and the phone rings again. She goes to pick up and screams, "Stop calling me," but that's when she hears that it's the police. And the police told her that they've traced the call and it's coming from inside the house and she needs to get the kids and get the fuck out. I just gave myself goosebumps. That's fucking terrifying. And sure enough, as Jill is trying to go get the kids, she runs into Tiffany's dead body. Jill goes to find the kids, but they're not in their beds. And she ends up finding them hiding in the playroom because they know that somebody's in the house. And then in this terrifying shot, Jill looks up at the loft and sees that the killer is in there fucking watching them. So Jill and the kids make a run for it and end up going into the greenhouse. Indoor greenhouse. Rich people. Jill hides the kids and then hears the killer coming, so she gets into the water. And when she goes underneath the water, sure enough, she finds Rosa's dead body. R.I.P. Rosa. So the killer comes in, Jill manages to get the kids out and run out herself and lock him in, but he's able to grab her hair, which is in between the door, and she literally just like pulls her head forward and rips a bunch of her fucking hair out. Jill then goes to find the kids, who are nowhere to be fucking found, you idiots. And as she's searching for them, the killer manages to break out of the greenhouse. He once again attacks Jill, but she turns on the fireplace with the remote, which ends up burning him. And as he's distracted by that, she takes a fire poker and stabs it into his hand, which pins him to the ground. She then finds the kids and runs out and runs directly into the police officer's arms. Great fucking timing, police. I already took care of it. He's in there, bitch. So the kids' parents come home, everybody's safe. The intruder is arrested, and as he's driving by in the police car, Jill catches a perfect glimpse of his face as he stares her down. The police tell Jill that this guy is a serial killer and is wanted in the murders of dozens of girls, and he's gonna go away for a really long time. Days later, Jill obviously is in the hospital recovering, and she is awoken by a phone ringing. She gets up, starts to look around, she can't find anybody. And then when she's looking in a mirror at her reflection, the killer shows up behind her and attacks her. Jill wakes up screaming. Obviously, this was a dream, and she is just frantically yelling, "He's in the house, he's in the house," as she's being restrained, and the movie ends. So this poor girl is fucking traumatized forever.